this parking garage, when they first built it, was never protected, but because of new epoxy paints, they installed, basically this is like having a huge piece of plastic or a huge piece of rubber over the parking garage. Again, before it was never protected because there's no roof above this, and what happens is inclement weather, obviously what you get is people putting salt on here and it eats through the cement. Now, basically we have a seamless system up here with an epoxy paint, which is 4 process, and this is going to give us 30, 40 years. It's basically going to be like a brand new parking garage, and the bulk of the expense of this project was adding the rubberized surface to the parking garage. These little squares, and I'm not sure you can see it, but they're about the size of a cinder block. What's underneath them is these little expansion joints that were put in here to allow a little bit of movement on the parking garage, because this is a precast construction building. And so what we did is we knew and had a good idea that these expansion joints were probably broken. And rather than us to replace the stripping inside here, which is the weatherproofing inside, we knew that we were going to have to tear this area up. We were also going to replace this surface. So there was no sense in doing anything to the parking garage in the last couple of years, because we know that we were going to be doing these repairs and adding this ceiling. So there's no sense adding a ceiling and then having to tear these up later and then also put the new stripping in. So what they did is they ripped these sections out. They replaced all of the steel reinforcements that broke as a result of putting large tractors in. And 30 years ago, I'm sure they weren't sure. They thought they had this brand new building. And they drove big trucks up here. 20 years ago, we stopped putting big trucks up here, big sanders and big tractors. So what happened was, those big pieces of equipment cracked, split the steel here, and broke all of them. So every single one of them had to be replaced. Then we put new weather stripping, and then we put the 4-part epoxy process for this. So a lot of things in here, when somebody shows you something that wasn't painted, we always painted handrails in here, we painted doors, but again, they're all made out of steel. In the last 2 years, we knew we were going to be making these improvements to the building, so there's no sense in doing painting things that we were going to just end up ripping out. So inside these columns are a bunch of small metal rods to reinforce the concrete these are the columns that hold the parking garage. So inside here, what happens eventually is that you end up through salt and rusting. Again, this is an outdoor element. Eventually the water gets in and it rusts and it corrodes the steel rods. So what they use now is a special inhibitor. And what they do is they actually paint it on the rods. And what it does is it provides an electronic process where it repeals, if you can believe it, and resists rust. So it's really a science behind it that helps that. That was not something that was even available to us just a few years ago. This is a whole entire process. And if you and I've looked at 30 other parking garage projects around the country, and they all have the same issue, and that is with the steel rods that we used. Today they wouldn't do that. All the products that are used in outdoor parking garages today either have a rust inhibitor, or the cement itself is actually treated with a special compound, a special additive to resist the salt and the outdoor elements, so that it lasts long. This style parking garage today wouldn't be built under normal circumstances. The products that they would use would be more fiberglass, powder coated, aluminum, and not steel and concrete. That's just untreated totally. Become an issue when people are talking about good maintenance. These walls are absolutely perfect. I want you to look at a column here. These are precast concrete. I want you to look at the floors. Okay, this is the ceiling to the bottom level, and that's the floor to the top level. Look at how perfect all of these cement, truss, and columns are. They are like brand new. You can rub your hand across them. They're perfectly smooth. There's absolutely no corrosion. There's no cracking. They are in perfect shape. So when my opponent talks about lack of maintenance, all you have to do is come into this building here and see what good condition this building is in. What we're doing is we're renovating some things and replacing materials that we're really, we're replacing some of the pieces that are in here with new materials that are much better, that will protect and preserve the lifespan of a big parking garage like this. So again, you can look at every single one of these columns, and there's probably 100 of them in here, all the way across here, and every single one of them is crack-free. There's no deterioration. There's no salt problems in here at all. It's like a brand new garage. Well, anyway, thank you for paying attention and learning more about this, because it's only fair to give people a full story. You can't claim transparency. Transparency is giving a complete picture. Transparency is giving a complete story. And so we wanted everyone to be able to come in here, because the parking garage is closed now in the renovation. So we wanted people to be able to actually see it and actually look at the condition of this parking garage. Because if you were to listen to my opponent, you would think that this thing has not been taken care of, and that there's been no maintenance to this building, and that it has been completely neglected. And to the contrary, this 30-year-old building couldn't be in the condition that it's in today. Now, does it need some preventative treatments? Yes, and that's exactly the kinds of things that we did. We added certain preventive measures in here that will keep this building alive for another 30 years, looking in the condition that it's in. And again, all one need to do is just walk around the perimeter of this building, look at the brick, look at the concrete, look at the full structure of this building, and you'll see it's just like it was when they first built the building. Now, do we have to replace doors over 20 years? Absolutely, you have to replace doors. There are 2 of them, maybe 3 of them in here. Did we add the top surface to the upper deck? Yes. There wasn't a surface in there before. We added one. That's not a lack of maintenance. We added a level. And so I think that you can see this is not a building that's been poorly maintained or poorly managed. And it's a lot easier for people to be critical, because when you're critical, you don't have to be correct.